Imagine a city reduced to ruins, its very foundations shattered by months of relentless warfare. The streets, once alive with the bustle of daily life, are now nothing but a maze of debris and shattered glass, echoing with the memories of what once was. Its skyline is jagged with broken buildings and black smoke, a grim testament to the ferocity of the conflict. The city seems to groan under the weight of destruction, every corner marked by the scars of battle. The air reeks of gunpowder and death, silence is shattered by sniper fire and distant artillery. Every step is haunted by the ever-present threat of sudden violence, and the ground itself trembles with the echoes of explosions. This was Stalingrad, winter 1942, a city that became the crucible of World War II. Here, in the biting cold, soldiers and civilians alike faced unimaginable hardship, their fates intertwined in a struggle that would shape the course of history. Hitler's armies had swept across Europe and deep into the Soviet Union, aiming for the oil-rich Caucasus. The German advance seemed unstoppable, their war machine rolling forward with ruthless efficiency, leaving devastation in its wake. Stalingrad, straddling the Volga River, blocked their path, a vital industrial hub and a symbol bearing Stalin's name. Its factories fueled the Soviet war effort, and its location made it a strategic prize for both sides. Its capture would sever Soviet supply lines and deliver a propaganda coup to Hitler. The city's fall would signal to the world that the Nazi advance was unstoppable, and that the Soviet Union was on the brink of collapse. For the Soviets, losing Stalingrad meant disaster. For the Germans, taking it promised victory. The stakes could not have been higher, as both armies poured men and resources into the fight, determined to claim the city at any cost. Both sides saw the city as an all-or-nothing gamble. Commanders on each side knew that the outcome here would reverberate far beyond the city's shattered walls, influencing the fate of nations. The battle would be fought not in open fields, but in the twisted wreckage of factories and homes. Every building became a fortress, every street a deadly battleground, as soldiers fought for every inch of ground. For the Germans, it was supposed to be another swift conquest, a quick victory to secure their southern flank and open the road to the oil fields beyond. For the Soviets and the city's civilians, it became a desperate fight for survival and the soul of their nation. Families huddled in basements, soldiers clung to hope, and the city's defenders refused to yield, no matter the cost. Stalingrad would test the limits of human endurance and redefine modern warfare. The struggle here was not just about territory but about willpower, sacrifice, and the unbreakable spirit of those who refused to surrender. This was not just a battle for a city, it was a battle for the future of the world. The outcome at Stalingrad would shift the balance of power, marking a turning point in the war and in the destiny of millions. The battle for Stalingrad was shaped by two men, Adolf Hitler and Joseph Stalin, locked in a relentless contest of wills that would decide the fate of millions. Their rivalry was not just military but deeply personal, each determined to outlast and outmaneuver the other on the world stage. For Hitler, Stalingrad became an obsession, its capture a personal vendetta against his Soviet rival. He saw the city as a symbol. Bearing Stalin's name, it was a prize he could not resist, a victory that would shatter Soviet morale and prove German supremacy. He poured division after division into the city, ignoring his general's warnings about overextension and the brutal Russian winter. Refusing any retreat, Hitler demanded total commitment, convinced that sheer willpower would bring him victory. Every street, every shattered building became a symbol of his determination. The city's ruins echoed with the sounds of relentless combat, as German troops pressed forward, step by bloody step. Meanwhile, Stalin issued the infamous Order 227, not one step back, making retreat punishable by death. For Stalin, the defense of Stalingrad was not just about territory, but about the survival of the Soviet Union itself. Soviet soldiers faced German guns ahead and their own commanders behind. The threat of execution squads loomed, forcing them to fight with a desperate, unyielding resolve. General Vasily Chuikov, leading the battered 62nd Army, vowed to hold the city or die trying. His leadership inspired his men to endure unimaginable hardship, clinging to every block and basement. The city's defense became a matter of national pride and survival. Civilians and soldiers alike joined in the struggle, turning every corner into a battleground. Stalin's iron will forged a desperate, unbreakable resistance. His orders left no room for weakness, and his presence loomed over every decision made on the front lines. For both dictators, Stalingrad was more than strategy. It was a test of ideology, personal power, and the very future of their nations. The city became a stage for their ambitions and fears. The result, a city transformed into a fortress, defended to the last bullet and the last breath. Stalingrad's streets became a maze of death and defiance. The fate of millions would hinge on their unyielding commands. Families were torn apart and the city's population suffered alongside the soldiers, enduring hunger, fear, and relentless bombardment. The battle lines hardened, and the city braced for annihilation. The world watched as Stalingrad became a symbol of total war where neither side would yield. In the end, Stalingrad would become the graveyard of Hitler's ambitions, a turning point in history, forged by obsession and iron will. The German assault began with fire from the sky, a thunderous roar that shattered the morning calm and signaled the beginning of a nightmare for Stalingrad. On August 23, 1942, the Luftwaffe unleashed a relentless storm of bombs, turning Stalingrad into a blazing inferno. The sky was blackened with smoke, and the ground trembled beneath the ceaseless explosions. Tens of thousands of civilians perished within days. The city's infrastructure was obliterated, leaving behind only twisted metal and shattered stone. Hospitals, schools, and homes vanished in the chaos. Survivors cowered in cellars and makeshift shelters, clutching loved ones as the world above burned. The constant threat of collapse and fire haunted every moment. The Germans believed that such terror would force a quick surrender, hoping to break the city's spirit through sheer devastation and fear. Instead, the destruction transformed Stalingrad into a defender's paradise, a labyrinth of rubble perfect for ambushes, snipers, and sudden attacks from hidden positions. The Red Army adapted quickly, fighting from the ruins, using every shattered wall for cover, and staying close to the enemy to avoid airstrikes. Their determination only grew stronger. The Germans, trained for swift, open warfare, now faced a grinding, close-quarters nightmare. Every advance was met with fierce resistance and deadly traps. Every street became a battlefield, every building a fortress, and every pile of rubble a potential stronghold for desperate defenders. The city's spirit refused to break. The ruins became powerful symbols of defiance and unity, inspiring both soldiers and civilians to hold on. The Luftwaffe's fury only steeled Soviet resolve. Each new attack deepened their determination to resist, no matter the cost. Stalingrad was no longer just a city. It had become a fortress of resistance, a symbol of hope and defiance for the entire Soviet Union. The battle had become a brutal struggle for every inch, with hand-to-hand combat raging in the ruins and neither side willing to yield. The inferno raged on, but the city would not die. Amidst the flames and devastation, Stalingrad's heart continued to beat unbroken and unbowed. The Germans called it Rattenkrieg, Rat War. Combat raged in sewers, stairwells, and shattered rooms. A single building could change hands multiple times a day. Soldiers lived in constant terror. Snipers, grenades, and exhaustion were ever present. Sleep and food were rare, nerves frayed to the breaking point. The fight was for every corner, every floor, every pile of rubble. Amid the chaos, legends emerged, like Soviet sniper Vasily Zaitsev, whose deadly aim inspired hope. The city's factories, Red October, Barricadi, Dzerzhinsky, became battlegrounds, their machinery twisted by shellfire. Progress was measured in meters, paid for in blood. The war in the rubble was relentless, savage, and personal. Heroes were made, but at a terrible cost. Stalingrad became a symbol of endurance and sacrifice. The city's ruins echoed with the struggle for survival. As winter set in, a new enemy arrived, General Winter. The Germans, unprepared for the brutal cold, suffered as temperatures plunged below -30. Frostbite, starvation, and exhaustion ravaged the Sixth Army. Equipment failed, supplies dwindled, and morale collapsed. The Soviets, hardened to the cold, used the frozen Volga to bring in reinforcements and supplies. The Germans, trapped and starving, became the hunted. The city that was supposed to fall quickly had become a frozen graveyard. The Red Army prepared for a decisive blow as the Germans weakened. The screw was turning. Stalingrad was slipping from Hitler's grasp. The hunters were now the prey, encircled by a relentless enemy and the merciless winter. The stage was set for a dramatic reversal. The fate of the Sixth Army hung by a thread. The city's defenders sensed victory was near. While the Germans bled in Stalingrad, the Soviets plotted their counterattack. General Zhukov massed forces on the weakly held German flanks, defended by ill-equipped allies. Operation Uranus launched in November 1942, a double pincer movement to encircle the Sixth Army. Soviet tanks and infantry smashed through Romanian lines, meeting west of the city to seal the trap. 300,000 Germans were surrounded in what became known as the Cauldron. Hitler refused to allow a breakout, insisting the army hold its ground. Göring promised an airlift, but the Luftwaffe could not deliver. Supplies dwindled, hope faded. The encirclement was complete. The hunters were now the hunted. The Red Army's masterstroke had turned the tide. The fate of the Sixth Army was sealed. Stalingrad had become a death trap. The world watched as the German army faced annihilation. Inside the Cauldron, the German army starved and froze. The promised airlift failed. Men boiled horse bones for soup. A desperate relief attempt stalled. No escape was possible. The Soviets closed in, squeezing the pocket tighter. On January 31, 1943, Field Marshal Paulus surrendered. Hitler's myth of invincibility was shattered. Of 300,000 trapped, only 91,000 surrendered. Just 5,000 would ever return home. Soviet losses were staggering, but the victory was decisive. Stalingrad marked the turning point of World War II. The Red Army began its march west, all the way to Berlin. The battle's legacy, a testament to human endurance and the horrors of total war. Stalingrad became a symbol of resilience and sacrifice. The city's ruins bore witness to the cost of obsession and the power of unbreakable will. The world would never forget what happened on the banks of the Volga.